Hello, everyone who's watching this is probably wondering why this isn't TLDR CLG, but this is actually a side project or a side thing that we're going to be working on, possibly doing for different CLG games, depending on whether or not CLG expands into Smash, CLG Leffenware. Oh, wait, he's in TSM now, so screw Leffen. But we're going to be talking about like different games and how they may like translate over to how the mechanics are different or like distorted in different games. So like CS:GO and Halo. Halo's obviously the smaller game. CS:GO has a larger viewer base, and even most of us who are transitioning over into CS:GO from LoL or League of Legends are already having a tough time. So trying to transition into Halo will be an even tougher time. So we're trying to break down the games in the perspective or the refraction of a lens, in the lens of a CS:GO player, and the differences between those games, and how you can just make the little bit of extra jump between the different games, and how it can be easier for you to understand the mechanics, the gameplay, and like why each game is different. And even though they're both FPSs, there's the console FPS, PC FPS. There's a lot of differences that can.
I think the big thing is we'd like to explain why. So these games are both FPSs. They're both games that CLG has teams in, and why doesn't CLG CS just play both games? Well, there are several reasons why. Yeah, exactly right. There's several reasons why that are just completely obvious. But at the same time,
you have to think about it a little bit more. It's not something that you just.
It's a very deep differences in the stylistic ways.
It's not on the box. It's not on the box art. It's a little bit more of a theoretical or a cognitive.
Well, the game, the mechanical design of the games and the competitive design of the games from the designer's perspective is very different.
Yeah,
and it creates a very different style of competitive player and competitive play.
So let's just break down the games that, like, from what we see as spectators. From what I see, Halo is fast-paced, lots of shooting. It's always action, very little breathing room, and it's very much about free-flowing action and, like, let me see, free-flowing action, just like people reacting off of just like sheer gun speed and like sheer just like reactive instinctual play. But CS:GO, on the other hand, can you just explain what you see CS:GO as a spectator?
Yeah. Well, I guess the good way to put it is it's the game, how the individual rounds or a map plays out in each of them. So CS:GO, as you're making me point out, is there's you have rounds.
Yeah.
And 5 players go in, and one team wins when the other team, all of their players are dead or they complete the objective. Mm-hmm. And the map round lasts, I think, 1 minute 45 seconds right now. I may be incorrect, but a round is a rather short round timer, and it can end at any point. And it's basically the one team has a crunch time to finish an objective or kill the enemy team. Whereas Halo, on the other hand,
is a respawn timer. So everyone
respawn timers.
It's just there's they're playing around, not so much an objective as in like, oh, this person's down, you get 15 seconds to do something, go, and that therefore forces the action to be forces teams to be on the proactive end. As soon as someone goes down, you have to adjust your strategy there. Yeah. 3 on 4, you have the advantage on the map. You want to push an advantage, get secure weapon spawner or secure something else, and that leads into the next point where weapon spawns versus economy, and that's going to be like actually a very large thing. And
if it wasn't obvious already, you don't respawn in a same round in Counter-Strike if you die. If you die, you are out till the end of the round and respawn the beginning of the next round, and there's a delay, and this is where economy comes in. So in CS:GO, your team starts out with a certain amount of money and is able to build up a cache of money that you can spend at the beginning of a round to get weapons. Weapons, armor, other utilities like grenades and different types of grenades, defuse kits if you're counter-terrorist. Yeah. Whereas since you're not dying in Halo,
well, you are dying, but you
or since you are not permadead in a round. Yeah. Since a round is a fluid, like a map, let's say.
Yeah.
A map is this fluid entire game mode that lasts for n time. How you can't have an economy per se,
but it's technically the economy is not so much like a hard money factor, but it's like how you're controlling the weapons.
The economy is a part of part of objective control.
Yeah,
like weapons themselves are an objective. Like if you're a CS:GO player, you'd imagine it like if each map, every round or every 3 rounds, let's say, an op spawned in a certain position that was equally reachable by each team. That would be something really interesting, but it's not how the designers of the game have made it.
But then Halo, that's how it works. So they
exactly.
built around like certain powerful weapons spawn on a certain timer after they get finished using up or they fall off the map. Then they spawn at a certain location, and then they're equally accessible by both teams. And then how your team plays, like if this person's a good sniper, or usually each player has 3 or 4, like they're pretty good on most weapons, but they have like 2 or 3 that they're really good at. And then how each team's strengths they play into that. You have to like, if your team's good at sniping, and you want to take control of the snipers if you can. If your team is good at using the launchers, then you want to have your pressure, have more people there when that spawns. So it's an interesting difference because
it's a huge difference.
It's a huge difference because like the economy system, it's a lot more. There's a lot. I like to compare like from like chess to checkers. Chess is like you have these certain plays you go through time and time again. You like this is the strategy. We have like we move the pawn 2 steps forward, then you move the knight, and then you have like a certain like written guidelines. But checkers like Halo is like everything is so variable because like if you could have kept the gun for like 30 seconds more and then thrown it away, or you could just throw it off the map as soon as you got it. And there's a lot more like variance in the different things, so it's a lot more like you react as fast as you can. Checkers react to different every situation differently.
If you didn't get a timer, if you didn't keep your timer correctly, like if you mentally didn't time it correctly, or the other team denied you the ability to keep that time, the game changes entirely. Like I think a good comparison, if maybe we'll do this another time. Halo functions a lot like Halo competitively functions a lot like multiplayer Quake.
Oh in God, the same Quake.
I love Quake.
I haven't played. QuakeCon.
QuakeCon every year. It's the shit. So the next thing in that mental progression would be, okay, so we know that how rounds different, like how individual maps respawning wise are different, and how the weapons and how you control how powerful you are as an individual are different. Well, the other factor in like let's say winning or losing a game is the game modes.
Yeah.
So if you're a CS:GO fan and you watch competitive CS:GO, effectively know there's one competitive mode right now, or at least
right now. As of today, March 29th, or is it March 30th right now?
Yes, March 30th.
March 30th, 2015, it is Bops. And
that is in all the competitive scenes, though there is a possibility that we're going to see maps like Italy that are hostage maps, which if you didn't know them, so the way a hostage map works is the Ts start off defending hostages, and CTs have to infiltrate and rescue hostages. If Ts kill the hostages, like you can kill all of the hostages and still win a round, but you lose money from killing a hostage. You hurt your economy. So you can kill the hostages that are running away with CT and force it to deathmatch, but you're not going to come out economically strong. But it changes the dynamic in the game in a very different way, because traditionally we're thinking CT side is defensive. Well, now it's aggressive CT side. So but that aside, that's not a huge part of competitive CS:GO right now.
At the moment. That was a major part of 1.6 though, right?
I'm not exactly sure. I didn't watch too much 1.6, but we did see hostage maps played.
Okay.
At least I remember playing hostage maps in Source, but that's its own beast. The other, so CS:GO, one game mode. Halo, 6. Several game modes.
There's Team
each
Slayer.
Map can have multiple. Each map can have multiple game modes to it.
Mm-hmm.
And like Warlord has several different game modes to it. I've seen Deathmatch Warlord. I've seen Oddball Warlord. I've seen Team Crazy King on Warlord. I've seen Capture the Flag on Warlord. Bomb Run also. I've seen all of them on Warlord.
Yeah, so
everyone loves Warlord.
So there's Team Slayer, Bomb Run, Capture the Flag, Oddball, and Team Crazy King. So
objectively, there's different objectives for each mode. Yeah. So each map has its own important parts to it.
So let's just break down the game modes in like regular terms for everyone else.
Sure.
Team Slayer, deathmatch. First team to 50 or first team to a certain number of kills wins the match. The kills,
or whoever has the most kills at the timeout wins.
Yeah. Bomb Run, you get a. It's similar to the CS:GO Bomb Run or the CS:GO bomb, the search and destroy, or not bombs, but then it's whatchamacallit. It's you have to get the bomb from your base to the opponent base.
Yeah.
And then it's like a 15-second timer for every time you drop the bomb, and then you have to arm the bomb. It's like 5 or 6.
You have to arm the bomb in there, and then the bomb goes off, and you get score. So you
Like you
have to-
automatically, I don't think you can get out of the blast radius if you're in the bomb. So
and then
capture the flag.
both teams are doing that to each other. That is a difference. Then it's not like one team's defensive and one team's offensive. Both teams are trying to bomb run.
And there's only one bomb in play at a time, or there can be two bombs in play.
I don't recall actually.
I don't recall actually either. I think it's two, but I don't remember. There's too many different Halo games to take months. Capture the flag. It's the classic. You go to the enemy base, get the flag, run back to your base.
So everyone's playing the same thing against each other.
Yeah. So there's no attack and defense teams. Anyone else who used to play guns like I did back in like 2005, like you can remember like the fan-made game modes where it's attack and defense, where you have to stay inside that defending place, and maybe you don't remember that game mode, but
I played guns. I remember.
Guns the duel. Dyrus played guns too. Yeah, but guns like attack and defense, these like that game where there's a certain team on attack and you switch over, and then it's on defense. But this isn't the case. Like everyone's on defense and everyone's on attack at the same time. So there's a lot more free flowing of action, and then there's a lot more like someone's down, you have to go now. You have to make the play now. So it's a lot more of a force thing. Oddball is sort of like a game of keep away.
Yep. Or smear the queer.
What the hell?
Maybe that's a Texas thing. So you play with the smear the queer, and someone gets the football, and whoever has the football, you have to go smash him to the ground and get the football from him. Then you get smashed.
I wasn't so much of a football guy. I played basketball, soccer.
But yeah, keep away is a good way to put it.
Keep away. Team keep away. So whoever has the ball gets the points.
You get points the longer you're holding on to it.
Ball is a melee weapon, and you can't swap to. It sucks. Our producer says it sounds like rugby, but it's
kind of.
But there's no scoring place, so it's like you have the ball, you have the points. So there's a timer system. You have the ball, then you have the you get a melee weapon. You're restricted in your actions because you can't shoot, and you have to protect that guy with the ball as long as you can. And since there's out of bounds areas, you can throw the ball off the map and then respawn to the center of the map. So there's also play around there. And then the final one would be Team Crazy King, which is King of the Hill, which is you just try to hold a position. The King of the Hill location swaps every minute or so, and then
it has a timer.
There's a timer, yeah. It swaps every so often, and you have to like rotate your team over and try to maintain the King of the Hill position for as long as you can. So how does this affect?
So I guess one other thing we've failed to mention is that that has become evident. Both teams have effectively there's no difference in team, like being one color or one side or another has no impact on how you play the game. If you're red or if you're blue, you always can get the same weapons. You can always get the same. You always have the same objective. As your opponents. Whereas in CS:GO,
very clear aggressor and very clear defenders, or very clear.
The big one is item differences. Like you can't, the way in CS:GO, CT weapons are more expensive than T weapons in general, so that changes how you try to control maps. Like if you're CT on an eco round, if you can kill a T that's on a gun round and steal his gun, then go hide, it may be worth doing that than trying to use that gun to win a round, unless you already have an advantage. Mm-hmm. There's major changes in team play. A good thing to point out is objectively, the games are extremely different in how they're controlled.
Yeah. So like additionally, because of the respawning system and like the round score system, like since Halo has that respawning system and the controlling the map, it snowballs a lot more than you can in a round system, because there's a certain amount of economy you get every round, and there's a lot more parallel like gold gain or money gain, cash flow. But in CS:GO, if you can maintain control of the map, or in Halo, if you can maintain control of the map, and if you can maintain like the man advantage, then you can easily get like snowball into 20, 30, 40 kills because of the objectives, because of like the gun spawning. So you can deny guns from the opponent, as well as
you can predict it. You can predict where they are going to spawn, and like you can spawn camp to a degree. You can't really camp right on where someone's spawning, because spawns are based on where players are on the map. But you can predict where someone's spawning and make your team play around that. Yeah. You can force spawns in certain positions, and force people to spawn away from objectives, away from whatever those objectives may be. So
but then this also causes a lot more critical breakpoints in games, where you have to do this right now, Otherwise, they're going to snowball out of control because they're going to have like the next set of spawns with the guns. So there's a lot more.
In the same vein. It actually compares reasonably well to the way CS:GO functions with its economy. It's
but it's
like
a lot more obvious.
It's like losing. Let's say let's say you've lost the pistol rounds as CT, and you get to your first gun round, and that gun round is extremely important for you to win, because if you spent so much on it, and you're likely not going to be able to do a full gun round the next round, or you'll have to lose subsequent rounds in order to get another full buy again.
Yeah.
You have throughout the match, whether it's in both games, whether it's the rounds going by, you have some extremely important points in the match that are critical. And whether in CS:GO, it's rounds are extremely critical.
Yeah.
Whereas in Halo, it's this certain little play in a like 10, 20 second period of time is really critical.
Yeah, because like after a certain amount of time, it's very hard to like once they have control over certain weapons, then it's very hard to break their control.
Yeah,
similar to like Quake, but then
it's like if you're playing 1v1 Quake and someone keeps having red armor and mega health control on you, and you can't break them from that, and then they're getting rocket launcher on top of it.
Yeah,
like
there's a lot of stuff you can't do. They
can just they can walk the map on you and just keep you controlled the entire time.
Yeah, but then this also leads into another point, which is shields versus armor. Because of the overshield system in Halo, which is you get a regenerating shield, and then you take fatal damage. That also allows for it's a sort of snowballing mechanic, where if you can kill someone and then like with your shields of regen, there's less of a trading system going on like there is in CS:GO, where you have like 2 man units. One person kills another one, you trade on that guy because you have the advantage in health and advantage in ammo.
Yeah, this plays into like the team play, because like we watched, if you watch Halo or watch like let's say CLG scrims or watch one of these tournaments, CLG Halo scrims or watch a tournament play where they get the audio bits.
Yeah,
you can hear that one of the major calls that they call it is like one shot, or they try to call out how much damage they've done or if they've broken the shield of whoever they've died to,
see if it's
and try to make the trade happen. Yeah. But like in CS:GO, you can just call out how much health they have left, and it doesn't matter. Like, okay, this person has this much health left. I did this much damage to them. That's about it.
Yeah.
Where in Halo, you call that out. If you don't get the trade, they forget that. Like, you have to forget it pretty instantly because, well, they're just going to regen. They're going to get their armor back, and it's going to be they're going to get their shield back, and it's going to go back to normal status quo.
Yeah.
So I think getting into shields versus armor, we're moving away from rather the overall team play objectives to this is how individual players this is how individual players can play these games differently.
Yeah. So like
shields versus armor is a huge thing.
So like an armor in CS:GO, you have to buy it, then it gets shipped down. Then after a while, you have to go next round, you rebuy it, or if you die, you have to rebuy. But in Halo, it's you respawn with your armor. You have the armor. You can regen it after a while. It's also like same thing with grenades. You get grenades every time you respawn, and there's a allocated amount you get every time. And then Halo, in CS:GO, you still have to buy it. So back into the shields point, the overshield actually promotes aggressive peeking or aggressive action, like forcing forward, because you have that buffer of going through. You shoot someone or you take some damage, and you go back and regen. So that it promotes a lot more aggressive gameplay because of the because in CS:GO, if you take that aggressive peek, then someone can shoot you in the leg, and you're handicapped for the rest of the match.
Yeah, it's like if you die in that peak, or if you take a bunch of damage, it's not worth it in CS:GO a lot of the time.
Whereas in Halo, you have that shield to
you at least have the opportunity to get some damage
without being punished off massively.
Yeah.
Like if you go in, take an unfavorable trade, you can regen in 15 seconds. You'll be back to normal. Then your ally can go in and trade on him while he's still trying to regen. So there's a lot more aggressive focus mechanics, which allow you to be, because a lot of the time, like in CS:GO, there's the peeker's advantage or the defender's advantage, where you just hold an angle, and then it's very hard for the person to come in and try to take you out because of you trading the angle that they have to walk past your scope.
Yep.
And then that isn't so much that's still present in Halo because that's how like FPS games work. But there's that the shielding actually offers you the opportunity for this to force this to maybe take a little bit of an unfavorable trade, but then still come out on top.
Yeah. So it shows how so as an individual player you can control the map differently. So like in CS:GO, you hold angles. Typically, you're trying to hold the important angles for your team. Whether even if you're terrorist or counter-terrorist, you're setting up angles if you're terrorist.
Yeah.
Or preventing angles from being held. Whereas in Halo, you have general area controlled. Like if you listen to comms in Halo matches,
Battle Rifle.
They're pointing out specific areas that they have control over, not specific angles.
Yeah.
Like they may have certain places where they hold an entire area from, but an individual player is like, I'm going to hold yellow ramp on Warlord or something like that. When they mean they're controlling that, they're not just like sitting in one spot and peeking back and forth around angle, watching for if someone steps there. No, they're like going up into a position where they know that the rest of their teammates have them covered from, and rotating back around and trying to spot people that may be taking that position and control it with their body rather than control it with their gun angle.
Yeah. Additionally, this is also like ties into the fact that there's specific weapon spawns because of the you want to control certain areas. You don't want to get close by when you're getting the weapon or when you're controlling the weapon. So then that also leads into a much more team play dynamic where it's less so about individual outplay and it's more so about like having your just everyone trained down and having the information like where is everyone, how they're moving. Because the maps aren't tiny either. The maps are relatively. Depends on the map, actually. But there's
some of them are large, some of them are pretty small.
Different scales of map, but like if you get the information, like, and most of the time you can get the information, you can have set up the game plan and try to set it down to a matter of skill because you can shoot down at them. So as Jim said, it was before, so like angle holding versus area control, and this is I think this is also leads back to the aspect of shields.
Yeah.
Because you have that opportunity to go, maybe you get hit by a sniper rifle, you can just like, you don't automatically die, you get hit by two.
Yeah, if you're controlling an area and you have a shield, you can be willing to step yourself into an open position because, okay, you get shot once.
You get the information.
You can know what you're shot by. You can know where you're shot from, so you can know where that enemy is. They know that you're there.
Plan accordingly and see what weapons they have, and you can maybe like use that as an inference of like, oh, he has 3 shots left. He shot me twice, there's 2 more shots left in the bullet, then you can like time the gun.
Yeah, just like put it, if you're doing that in CS:GO, that's a lot of the time it's a bad thing because like unless you have to do that as a full strategy, like team strategy in a round is just run into a site. That would be like what your entry fragger's goal is in a round. They're getting in there, feeding you the information of where the players are and trying to get kills themselves. But most of the time they're just going to go down. Yeah. Whereas in Halo, it's
you take 1 or 2 shots.
You can do it more individually.
Yeah,
and it's like more of a grand scheme of strategy.
Yeah,
I just recalled something interesting. You're mentioning how you get grenades on spawn.
Yeah,
an interesting comparison. Like, so you have to pay for grenades in CS:GO, but one common strategy that happens to be in both games is, it's kind of obvious. Throwing several nades. Like I remember watching Warlord, and I think it was watching Noble Black Scrim, and they would have all 4 players throw their grenades in the exact same position, and it all goes into one place because if all 4 grenades go off where you're running to, you're probably just gonna die. I recall like the same thing tends to happen in CS:GO. I remember watching I think it was just some CEVO matches a while ago. CLG was doing their A take on Mirage, and I can't recall. I think it may have been Cloud9, but it may have been someone else. They knew where the smokes were from the A take, so they had 4 people throw all their grenades over at one position where a player was throwing a smoke from. Luckily, whoever was throwing that smoke like dropped down as those grenades were thrown, but they would have just died to it. It's an interesting large strategy. You do see people do the same.
I think that additionally to the fact that like the grenades being given on spawn, there's only 2 types of grenades. There's fragmentation grenades and plasma grenades, which are plasma grenades stick to surfaces, so stick to people surfaces, so you can use them to like hold certain like doorways or entrances. Whereas you have like smokes, decoy grenades, you have frag grenades and HE grenades.
I think my understanding with one of the major differences between plasmas and HEs.
Yeah.
I want someone to correct me if I'm wrong on this. I think plasmas break shield. Like if you stick someone, you're just going to kill them.
Yeah.
But if you like, let's hit someone with the AoE of a plasma, it's going to break shield and do less damage to health.
Yeah.
Whereas if you hit someone who doesn't have a shield with an HE, it's going to do much more damage to their health.
Yeah.
Though I think I may be wrong, but that sounds
about right. So then for there's a lot more variety in grenades in CS:GO. So the because of the grenades come out and spawn, there's a lot more free use of it. That you use it to like throw an angle. You don't want to hold that angle. You just throw a grenade there. Then you train your gun somewhere else, or you try to as you're retreating, you stick the door, which is something you probably would do. I don't think that would be so prevalent in CS:GO because yes.
Mainly what you're doing, so if you're retreating, there is a comparison to that. Like in CS:GO, if let's say you peek an angle and you see that the T's are rushing you or something, you would throw your flashbang behind you, smoke behind you, so that you don't you can take your shot and run, and they have something in their way from being able to just kill you.
Yeah, but then for the Halo equivalent, you actually are doing damage because you're doing it.
Well, it's like so. I guess a good comparison would be like Molotov. You throw a Molotov behind you.
Yeah, I'll throw a Molotov. Yeah, so they can't really follow you, but then you can smoke the Molotov. So that's really if different. So then, but then there's that. These are just slight nuances which get into a lot more mechanical gameplay. But there's that where you can use you use a Molotov and you have a plasma grenade stuck to a door frame or the entrance, so they can't get through, and then that serves to cover your escape. So moving on to the biggest difference.
I think this is the paramount one. Paramount.
Yeah, why can't the CS:GO player just go in and crush everyone in Halo? Because CS:GO is a PC game, mouse, keyboard, and Halo is controller.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward there. So. You can go pretty deep on this, but I'm going to try to keep it a bit short. More or less.
Let me guess what you're going to say. PC Master Race?
Yeah, PC Master Race, right? Well, okay, so the difference between the two, if you've had, let's say you're a PC gamer and you have arguments with your console friends or vice versa, when you're using the difference is 2-to-1 versus 1-to-1. And what do I mean by that? So if I'm using a mouse is a 1-to-1 movement or 1-to-1 control. Let's say if I'm trying to kill someone, if I have my crosshair aimed at some point in the screen and someone pops on a pixels highlight on the screen where someone is that I want to shoot at, in order to shoot at that person, I have to take my mouse, slide it across some amount, some number, or some distance on my mouse pad, and then a scaling factor, a constant scaling factor, that's your mouse sensitivity.
Yeah.
And DPI both factor into that. But some scaling factor, a single constant scaling factor, multiplies that distance by that value and moves your crosshair a certain amount of pixels across the screen. So it effectively becomes direct hand-eye coordination in a sense that I have my eyes, I'm looking where I want my crosshair to be on the screen, movement. And I have to move a certain amount and my crosshair goes to that position. It's effectively, I'm doing a scalar distance movement on the across my mouse pad, and
the same action is reflected.
The same action is reflected on in my crosshairs. But okay, so here comes to controllers. If I have a controller here, so it's a GameCube controller, but nevertheless, if I have my controller going on here and I see someone in the same sort of situation. Someone shows up on my screen, let's say top left corner of my screen, and my crosshairs are in the middle, and I have to aim at them. In order to aim at them, I have to depress my crosshair or depress my control stick in that direction.
Yeah.
A certain amount. I don't have to do it all the way. A certain amount, depending on how far I think they are away.
And it's a lot more.
And that accelerates that makes my crosshairs start to move, right?
Yeah.
My crosshairs start to move, and when my crosshairs reach them, if I hold it all the way, sometimes it just accelerates, depending on the game. But you can do the same on mouse. So let's say it doesn't accelerate, but you have to decide how fast your crosshairs move depending on how far your thumb is pressed down.
Yeah.
And then once your crosshairs reach that point, you have to let go of it. So I have to do two actions. I have to decide how fast I want it to go, and then I have to let go.
You have to readjust it to
exactly
too high.
I have to decide how fast I want my thing to move, and then I have to decide when it is going to stop.
They need to fire.
Yeah. So I have to keep a timer in my head going, and I have to do this like finger movement or decision on how far my thumb moves. And so all in all, what that kind of boils down to is, especially like I think there's probably videos out there. Maybe we could link one or something of, let's say, I think Call of Duty was the example. They put Call of Duty players like they put PC Call of Duty 4 players against console Call of Duty 4 players, and these are like mediocre level PC players against like professional level COD players. I don't know particularly what that means, but these mediocre PC players were able to destroy these professional players because you have more control. You can just twit. Yeah, you have more control. You're able to make the decision quicker. It's just straight hand-eye coordination, really, when it comes down to mouse movement. Whereas you have to do a lot more calculation with your thumb movement. And you're using a thumb rather than like your whole arm. So I guess like a props that you can give like the Halo players is in this difference is you have to do a bit more mental calculation in how you're controlling your crosshair.
There's a lot more finesse to it. FNS. Yeah, but there's like
if only he joined that team.
Yeah, but there's a lot of like you can press it. There's a lot more stuff that is not so much twitching, like reaction speed, as it is like trying to have like the most optimal move, because it's like you see some of these players that played for 5, 10, 20, 15 years and they're still going strong because they have that technique down, whereas in CSGO they still have relatively long careers, but it's like very there you can see there's a sharp decline after.
It's because one of the things is your
precision isn't as
there's precision. I think the big one is like reaction time is it only gets so important in Halo, and more of it becomes strategy and having that muscle memory there. Mm-hmm. Like there is there's still muscle memory, but having that timing, like unless you're getting arthritis, it's much easier to get like your wrists injured and have like carpal tunnel than to get thumb arthritis when you're like in your 20s.
Yeah.
So you're going to have in a way more longevity if you're able to. One thing I do recognize, like let's say I've watched a lot of the competitive Halo,
and they have all the.
You watch a lot of the time. They try to keep it down to having like reasonably high sensitivity, but doing these short movements where they're like, I know that if I tap my control stick in this direction and let go after like a second and a half, I will turn this much. So, and you see a lot of like swapping to different angles and just like moving and controlling, like think like octagonal, like how my control stick has multiple different directions. They're just kind of it has 8 different directions, not just like infinite in a circle. Mm-hmm. And they just kind of change their personal angle based on
every time
by inputting every time. And then they can have the little bit of finesse with the like very small input with their thumb rather than the big crazy movements.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. It's something that, like, at the same point, you can do the exact same thing to a degree easier with your mouse by making very large mouse movements and then having very precise small mouse movements. That's why a lot of people use they use low sensitivity on their mouse, because you have a very large mouse pad. So if you have to go like spin 270 degrees or something ridiculous like that, you can go all the way across your mouse pad, and then you have to be accurate when you get there. So you have very low mouse sensitivity, so that you didn't go a little bit too far, or like you've moved your hand a massive amount, and now you have to like twitch it back in a really complicated way. But yeah, I think overall that's like a huge difference that a lot of people. It's really easy to just think
controllers
it's basic controller versus.
But there's a lot of nuance to it.
Yeah, there's a in-depth. More or less, it comes down to this. As a control scheme, a mouse, you can be more precise, more accurate, and quicker. But at the same time, the same sort of game can be played, and if all players are on that same level playing field, like that's the thing. Competitive Halo works because everyone's using a controller. Yeah. If someone was allowed to use a mouse, all bets are off.
We don't know what to go on.
I mean, if someone was to use a mouse in Halo, I'm pretty sure like whoever's team that person was on, even if they were like before like one of their bottom fraggers on that team, if they were a competitive team and they knew the game, they knew how to play the objectives, that player would just destroy other players.
I think that's a very
That's something I'd want to ask. I'd want to ask.
that was something
Halo
I'd love to
players.
ask the Halo if we could ever
Yeah.
get them on.
Yeah, right.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I'm trying.
Yeah, but that should have been our breakdown of the CS:GO and Halo models of the game and why they're so different. And with this, hopefully, this helped you. This like enlightened you a little bit about the game stylistically, how they play, how they. We didn't really talk much about how they handle because that would be some opinion sort of thing. But it's a very interesting like dynamic that the games have that are different, even though they're both FPSs. And you can see like even though we touched probably on something very like basic, this hopefully gave you a better understanding, an easier jumping off point if you want to get into Halo from CS:GO or if you want to get into CS:GO from Halo. And hopefully this will serve as a decent resource for anyone who's interested in supporting CLG in multiple games, not just LoL.